What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for UFC 238 this weekend. Looking at the entire card, it's pretty good, man. I will say this is one of the best prelim cards in a long time. I do find it kind of weird that Caitlin Chookagian versus Joanne Calderwood is actually the first fight on the early prelims, even though the winner of that might get a title shot. But we're going to start with Aljamain Sterling versus Pedro Munhoz. Competitive fight. Both fighters are amazing grapplers, great submissions, a bit different in their approach. I would say Sterling is actually more dangerous overall, but Munhoz is a lot more efficient, especially when it comes to his guillotine. Sterling is well adept in all kind of different submissions, but Munhoz, I would say, is the better at positions, but Sterling is a better takedown artist. So it really scrambles everything there. I believe if it goes to the ground, there's going to be some great scrambles. Munhoz, like we saw in the Cody Garbrandt fight, he can go for heel hooks, he can go for the legs really quick too. He doesn't normally show that side of him. He's been striking a lot more, he's been going for the guillotines a lot more in his fights, but he does have that ability to scramble chaotically with Aljamain Sterling. And the fight, for some reason, I think is going to be mostly contested on the feet. I believe Sterling and Munhoz both believe in their striking now. They came into the sport more of grapplers and developed their stand-up so much. I think they are going to believe that their stand-up is superior to their opponents. And that's where the fight's going to take place. Sterling is a lot better with movement. He's a lot longer. He throws a lot more head kicks and body kicks, and his boxing has really come a long way, even though that was a bit more of a hole in his stand-up game. But other than that, when it gets on the inside, he kind of just tries to move away quickly. He's fast to move out, but opponents can catch him on his way out. And if Pedro Munhoz can get in close, he could do some damage. Now, Pedro Munhoz, I would say, has a better boxing game and better leg kicks, and that's going to be a huge thing against Aljamain Sterling, because Sterling likes to move a lot. He has a long, wide stance. That low calf kick that Munhoz is really good at can really damage Sterling. When it gets on the inside, I believe Munhoz has a lot more firepower. But the thing is, Munhoz has to be somewhat in close range. It's only going to take the leg kicks to get Sterling to get in close. If he cannot land those leg kicks, I don't think Munhoz is really going to get close to Sterling. That's what makes this fight so competitive. It's going to be somewhat of a chess match. But my prediction for this fight, I believe it's one of the most competitive fights on this card. I'm going to go with Pedro Munhoz in this one. I think he's going to win by a decision. When I picture the fight, I see Sterling having success early on, where Pedro Munhoz has to start figuring out the footwork and the distance. But I think he'll eventually start landing those kicks and force a close range exchange, and then it causing Sterling to start going for takedowns himself, and he finds some trouble there as well. And I think Munhoz just overall outpoints him for the most part of the fight. And then we go to Tatiana Suarez versus Nina Ansaroff. And right off the bat, I mean, the odds are crazy on this one. Suarez is like at least on these odds an 8-1 favorite, and you can even find her as a 10-1 favorite. That is beyond ridiculous. I mean, I understand Tatiana Suarez is probably the best wrestler in this division, by far probably. She's pretty long for the division. Her striking is not all together yet. It's very awkward. It's a lot of long range attacks, and it seems like she loses her footing on a lot of her punches. They can also leave her kind of unbalanced. She has really wide shoulders, very similar to like an Amanda Nunes, where she could really reach and extend into her punches a lot of snap. She still has to develop that snap in her punch. It took Amanda Nunes a long time to develop it herself, and I think Suarez can eventually get to that. But she also does throw a lot of kicks. A lot of side kicks, round kicks from a distance, long range attacks really that you don't normally see from wrestlers. But her bread and butter is just the wrestling. I mean, she has an amazing double leg. She is really good against the cage as well. Her control on top is insane. She has decent ground and pound too. I mean, good shot selection. She's very strong there, and it comes from her experience. I mean, she, I think, was going to compete in the Olympics as well. That's pretty much what her game composes of. A lot of pressure, a lot of wrestling, a lot of shots. Her takedown average is the most I've ever seen out of any fighter. But when it comes to Suarez's takedowns, I believe her reactive double leg is one of her best weapons. I mean, she doesn't normally just shoot from a distance, especially when you saw her fight with Carla Esparza, who is a really good wrestler herself. She was using her takedowns more as of a counter. Wait for Carla to get in because she knows she's shorter, and then drive in the double leg under the punches. Against Ansaroff, it's going to be pretty hard to do that kind of thing because Ansaroff overall is just a much better striker. Much better kicks. She's a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. She's going to be able to counter even Suarez's kicks, which she throws a lot. And Ansaroff's boxing is infinitely times more effective and more technical than Suarez's. And the thing about Ansaroff, too, is she is really good at actually moving backwards with her combinations. It's very weird. I don't normally see this from other fighters. She will throw 3, 4, 5 punch combinations, moving backwards as her opponent tries to shoot it for takedowns or try to grab a clinch or something like that. So when you saw her fight Claudia was trying to sometimes rush Ansaroff, and she would eat like 4 punches on the way in. And they're not just wild, get off me kind of punches. No, they're very good form, good uppercuts, check hooks, good jabs moving back. precise boxing from Ansaroff. And her jab is one of her best weapons as well. It really checks Suarez. That's the reason why I believe Suarez might have a more difficult time getting the double leg on Ansaroff, is because Ansaroff doesn't really blitz in like Esparza did, or she doesn't commit with big punches from a distance. It's a lot of jabs and baiting you to come in on her so she can counter you. And her kicks are extremely unorthodox to the traditional dominant Muay Thai style in MMA. She will follow up her kicks, right? She'll do a side kick to your leg, chain that to a side kick to the head. I mean, she'll do all kind of different stuff that especially Suarez has never seen before. And Ansaroff is very skilled in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. She was able to hold her own on the ground with Claudia, who is one of the best BJJ artists in this entire division. And she does train with Amanda Nunes as well, who is as high level as it gets in overall just complete MMA. From BJJ to wrestling to judo to boxing to kickboxing to everything involved. And she is heavily favored to lose this fight like she was against Claudia. So she's been here before. I believe when it comes to the mindset, I think Ansaroff is probably in the better state. So my prediction for this fight, I am still going to go with Tatiana Suarez. And the reason for that is the best fight to look at Ansaroff's career is when she fought Claudia. It's the most similar style to Tatiana Suarez. And Claudia started gassing out in the fight, and Ansaroff started getting stronger because of it. Suarez is not going to gas out, and she's going to keep shooting in, and I believe she could win a decision through that. But I will not be at the least bit surprised if Ansaroff pulls this off. Not even a little bit. Before I made this video, I was even thinking that Ansaroff was going to win this fight. Suarez's strengths will be tested a lot more in this fight than it ever was before. And another big reason is Body Armor just sponsored her. Yeah, probably bet the house on Nina Ansaroff. No, I was just kidding. I wonder what Kenny Florian is. But, yeah, 10-1 favorite for Suarez is absolutely ridiculous. I do think she's going to win a decision, but I believe it might even be a split decision. And then we go to Jimmy Rivera versus Peter Yan. Both fighters are extremely well-rounded. Peter Yan is much more of a finisher. He's much more dangerous in every single position. Jimmy Rivera is a lot more experienced, and he's a little bit more unorthodox than Yan is. I mean, Jimmy Rivera has really good leg kicks. He's really good at blitzing in. He has really good movement as well, in and out more. It's a lot more linear than Yan's. Yan moves everywhere, but the difference between their footwork is Yan is always in position to deliver power. He's that kind of fighter. Whereas Rivera, he likes to just move in and out mostly. He likes to blitz in, and when he gets out, he's not really doing much other than just getting out. It's going to be very interesting to see who's going to pressure who's going to be on the back foot. I believe if Rivera's on the back foot, his chances of losing this fight skyrocket. Because Yan is excellent at cutting off the cage. He has great takedowns, great double legs. He has that Russian-style wrestling that really gives the American style a lot of problems. And his boxing is way better than Rivera's. I would say Rivera probably has better kicks. He is a bit faster, but he's most likely going to have to engage Yan. Yes, he has a longer reach, but the way he fights, it's all in close. His punches don't really extend all the way. He likes to throw combinations, he likes to blitz with shots a lot more, and Yan will extend on his punches, and he is excellent at countering as well. Even if he's moving backwards, Rivera's going to have a tough time. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Peter Yan. I'm going to go by a decision as well. I think Rivera is more than tough enough to take a lot of the punches from Yan. I think the first round is going to be very competitive. And I think Yan is eventually going to figure out Rivera and start countering him, start landing punches, start taking him down a little bit, start landing ground and pound, and Rivera's going to get weaker throughout the fight. And then we go to the real main event. The people's main event. Tony Ferguson versus Donald Cerrone. One of the best fights matched up this entire year so far. And it's a shame it's only 3 rounds. And that really throws a big wrench into how this fight might play out. Well, both these guys are extremely well-rounded. Both good wrestlers. I would say Tony's a better wrestler, but he hasn't really shown it in MMA. Both great at BJJ, very different stylistically, right? Where you got Tony who comes from 10th Planet, and Donald Cerrone's a more traditional BJJ artist, but both attempt a lot of submissions. So they're very dangerous, and they threaten a lot of opponents whenever it gets to the ground. Tony will go for anything, right? He'll go for the leg, he'll go for Imanari rolls from a distance, but his bread and butter, I would say, is his Darce choke. Whereas Donald Cerrone, I will say, is probably his triangle choke. But Cerrone's also very good at everything else. Positioning, again, you don't really see Tony on top that much, but he's really good at breaking posture when he's on his back. The elbows off the back, the strikes off the back, the breaking of posture constantly, the constant activity from Tony Ferguson, even if he gets taken down, is going to be something Cerrone's never fought against before. Tony is a lot better of a boxer than Cerrone is. Tony has a longer range, but it's going to be magnified because Cerrone doesn't really extend on his punches at all, right? He has a 73-inch reach, but it's going to be like he has like a 70, the way he throws punches. He doesn't really rotate the shoulders too much. His jab is precise, but he usually gets those on fighters who have the same reach as is him, a bit shorter, or who have a reckless style of getting in close. Tony has the better boxing game overall. He has more power, I believe, as well in his hands. And when it comes to the kicks, I mean, Cerrone's going to be a bit more skilled in that area. But Tony, he did fight Edson Barboza, and he got some good kicks on Barboza as well. A lot of good front kicks, very unorthodox pressure with his kicks. He kind of throws the front kick, the push kick, and he's still stepping forward. It's almost like a big step forward. And then he gets in your face and he starts throwing elbows and stuff at you. But that's the other thing. Even though Cerrone is so experienced, he's never faced the unpredictability that Ferguson brings into a fight. He does everything different. Everything. His jab is different. The step in for his jab is opposite of what boxers tell you to do. He throws a jab from far and then steps in behind it. You'll see him lift his chin up so high, it looks like he's doing it on purpose. I mean, even though punches miss him, I mean, it's crazy. I think it was the RDA fight where you saw a lot of that happening. RDA would throw those jabs and try to get in and throw that straight left. And Tony would throw his own jab or an elbow and he would lift his chin so high up, you see the punch go right underneath it. It's crazy. I mean, I don't think he's doing it on purpose, but if he is, I wouldn't be surprised. But the other thing about Tony is he does get hit. He does leave his chin exposed, and he has been dropped more lately than he's ever had in his entire career. But he does have a good chin, and more impressively, he has a way better ability to recover from shots. If you hurt him, he's not going to be hurt for long. Lando Vannata landed a head kick on him, and Tony recovered quickly after that. Cerrone has an insane chin, especially at 155. I mean, he's able to take punches very well. Just his body's a little bit more compromised, and you've seen that in many fights at 155. And I believe Ferguson might target that area, might throw some long left uppercuts to the body, left body kicks constantly. And that's the other thing as well. Tony Ferguson has a higher punch count. He strikes a lot more on average, and that is something that has hindered Cerrone in the past, like you saw with Nate Diaz, but that was a long time ago. Cerrone's head movement and his boxing has gotten so much better. He's not going to be as open to the boxing combinations, but I still believe it's going to be a bit of a hole there that Tony's going to be able to exploit. Now, if it stays from a far range, I believe Cerrone might have an advantage with the leg kicks and the head kicks and the push kicks and side kicks and stuff. If it gets in mid-range and close range, I think Ferguson has the advantage. And up until now, nobody was able to keep Tony Ferguson at a distance. Whenever he wanted to get in mid-range, which in every fight he had the advantage on his opponent, nobody was able to stop him from doing it, which gets him to dictate the pace of fights. And I don't believe Cerrone's really going to be able to do it as well, because Cerrone does back up to get to kicking range, but Ferguson's always pressing forward. He's never moving backwards, especially for a fight like this, where Cerrone has a slow first round. It gives the benefit to Ferguson to dictate the pace of the fight from the very start. And that goes to my prediction for this fight. I'm going to go with Tony Ferguson. I do think it's going to be closer than people think, but I do see Ferguson dominating most part of the fight. Cerrone's going to be strong late, but I believe he's going to be damaged by the time the third round comes. I believe Cerrone can knock out Tony Ferguson. I believe he can land some of those unpredictable, snappy head kicks. He could potentially land some punches on the inside as well. He has good power in his hands. But I only believe that's going to be able to come by the end of the second round into the third round, where Cerrone really starts amping up, starts getting better in the fight. But I'm going to go with Tony Ferguson on this one. I'm going to go by a decision. I think Cerrone's more than tough enough to last the entire fight. And then we go to the co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Eye. Getting right into it, Shevchenko is one of the best fighters I've ever seen. I mean, when it comes to overall skill, put her with the men. I mean, she is going to be up there. Her striking is absolutely phenomenal. She makes really no mistakes technically. The only reason why she lost a Nunes fight was because of Nunes' distance management. It wasn't due to technique. It wasn't due to any flaw in her skill. It was just the massive size difference between the two. She didn't really have a way of getting in on Nunes too effectively, like she had against Joanna or these other fighters that are more her size. I mean, her takedowns are great. She's so strong in the clinch because of her judo background and Muay Thai background. Her submissions are great. She submitted Juliana Pena at 135. That's crazy. Her positioning on top is insane, where fighters like Jessica Andrade and Claudia could even hold down Joanna, but Shevchenko did. And Jessica Eye, she's pretty well-rounded, but she's more focused on her boxing as well as just dogging the fight out. But just going right into the prediction, I think Valentina Shevchenko is going to dominate this fight. She's not the kind of fighter that makes kind of mistakes that get her caught. She's too focused. Even when she's fighting lower competition like Cachoeira, Shevchenko is beyond focused. She treats every fight like it's the most important fight of her life. She's like the female version of Ryu from Street Fighter. I mean, she goes everywhere to train, she travels everywhere, she's just looking for the challenge, and she treats every fight with the utmost importance. So I'm gonna go with Valentina Shevchenko. I'm gonna go by a third round submission. I don't really see Jessica Eye even having the power to change the course of the fight if she's able to land. Then we go to the main event. I would say second best fight on this entire card. Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes. Very interesting fight, man. Henry Cejudo's the flyweight champion moving up to 135, and he's a big 125er, so he can really fill up to this division. If you look at the pictures of him, he looks like a pretty good size 135er. He's a bit short, but very stocky, very strong. And we've seen it with John Lineker. Same kind of build, and his power is absolutely ferocious in this division. But Marlon Moraes should be a little bit cautious of the power. He shouldn't think that he's going to walk down Cejudo and just pulverize him out there. Because Cejudo also has a speed advantage, right? He's very good at moving in and out. He has a karate stance, linear style to land that right hand. And that right hand could put anybody out. And he's super precise with it, and also comes with leg kicks, a really good right leg kick. And his wrestling is one of the best in the UFC. He does everything well when it comes to wrestling. Completely out-wrestled Demetrius Johnson. That's the way he won that fight. And he's going to have the wrestling advantage against Moraes. But the only problem with the wrestling in this fight is Moraes is going to be much bigger. And he has a decent takedown defense. And he's a really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. So if it gets to the ground, Cejudo might have a bit of a problem holding him down. That's why I think most of the fight is going to be on the feet. Moraes has devastating knockout power in everything he throws. He has some of the best timing and precision in this entire division. His left high kick, he's ended 2 top contenders with that, with no setup really. He just timed it. I mean, his timing is impeccable. It's one of the best I've ever seen. His right overhand on a sunsow with that too. I mean, he caught a sunsow at the perfect time. I believe when the sunsow's just moving away, that's when Moraes came in with that giant right overhand. His left hook is amazing too. I believe the biggest thing is going to determine this fight is who's going to pressure who. If Moraes gets pressured, and I mean heavily pressured to the cage, where he's going to have to start moving out to get away from Cejudo, I believe Cejudo will probably win this fight. I think it's determined. If Cejudo gets backed up, almost 100% confident that Moraes will win this fight. Because I don't believe Cejudo getting pressured heavily back is going to be nearly as he is at the center of the cage or moving forward, because his wrestling gets thrown off and he's only going to look for that counter right hand, that counter right cross. And I think Moraes knows that punch is going to be coming. Cejudo's right body kick that he likes to throw a lot isn't really going to be in play either. He only really has one weapon moving backwards. And that's too dangerous to fight a guy like Moraes. I think Moraes is a little bit too overconfident. He's never really talked about opponents like he's talking about Henry Cejudo, and the only thing he's saying is Cejudo is just too small. When you think like that, you're not even really paying attention to the overall skill. Maybe some of them, but there's most likely to be something you're not seeing. And statistically and historically, fighters that move up to challenge for a belt usually do win. And it's because their power magnifies at the higher weight class, and they are faster than their opponent. And they are hydrated, right? They're not really cutting too much weight. But my official prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Marlon Moraes. I think that left high kick is going to be too much of a problem for Henry Cejudo. With that long, wide karate stance, that left high kick is really going to be effective because there's really nothing you could do to defend it fully. You're almost complete on your side. The kick really has a lot of power to knock you off balance. And we don't know how Cejudo's cardio is going to be fighting Moraes. I'm going to go with Marlon Moraes. I'm actually going to go by a 4th round TKO. Let's look at the rest of the fights here. Taito Iwasa versus Ivanov is going to be interesting. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Alexa Grasso is a great fight. I would say the sleeper of the card is Ricardo Lamas versus Kelvin Kattar. That's an insanely good fight. Kattar definitely has a boxing advantage. He has good takedown defense. He has good wrestling himself. But the leg kicks of Lamas can do a number on Kattar, who doesn't really check kicks at all. Caitlin Chukagian versus Joanne Calderwood is an amazing fight, and I believe the winner of that is going to get a title shot. So great fights on this card, really something to look out for. And then let's look at the betting odds here. Wow, I would think Karolina would be a much bigger favorite than she is. It's almost a pick'em fight, even though Karolina has a lot more advantages in the fight. Peter Yan's that big of a favorite? What? I actually thought Jimmy Rivera would be the favorite because of his experience, and he's a higher ranked contender. Again, Suarez being that big of a favorite, that is just ridiculous. Tony and Cerrone is very close. I do kind of agree, but I do think Tony should be a little bit bigger of a favorite. Cejudo was a slight underdog. I'm glad they did that, because I had a feeling they would make Moraes too big of a favorite, and Cejudo definitely has a chance to knock him out. So those are my predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. My next video, I want to make it the MMA prospects video, but it could be the podcast. Those are definitely going to come out this week, though, so be lookout for those. And there's also going to be my breakdown of the fights this weekend, maybe even 2. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.